Hello, everyone. This is Beastly EO, and on today's episode, we have a character spotlight. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about a specific character, going through the history in the comics and where might see this character in the future. So, needless to say, the big character that's still in discussion to this day, after their debut in Loki, is still Kang the Conqueror. But how much do you actually know about Kang the Conqueror? I can promise you that I did not know as much as I do now after reading a bunch of stuff about him. So let's talk about the history of Kang the Conqueror. Um, so we have to start off with one of his ancestors. Nathaniel Richards was born in an alternate timeline in Earth 6311. Basically, it's just called Other Earth. Um, so that's his name. And in this particular reality, Dark Ages never occurred, and because of that, technology was advanced further than what we could have ever done. In fact, they landed on the moon apparently in 900 AD, which supposedly became the start of their new calendar, which is so bizarre to me. Um, During this peaceful era, they made a lunar colony, and it unfortunately caused a great war between the colony and Earth, which unfortunately caused Other Earth to go back to a primitive state, which is just awful. So Nathaniel Richards of Earth 616, attempting time travel, reached Other Earth and settled there. He used his knowledge to help rebuild that world and married Cassandra. He then became known as both a warlord and a benefactor. So almost two millennia later, in the calendar year of 3000, Nathaniel Richards' descendant, who was also named Nathaniel Richards, which is kind of just boring to me, in my personal opinion, but I guess it's to help you so you are aware that they're related. He was born into this age of peace and enlightenment thanks to his ancestor. At age 16, he was a young robotics student and working on a growing man's stimuloid model, which apparently is a robot, um, which still kind of throws me off. Apparently, which is awful when we think about schoolyard bullies, but apparently a bully of his tried to slit his throat and did not kill him, but caused him to spend the whole next year hospitalized. So while Nathaniel was in the hospital, he was actually studying cross dimensional records. And he was trying to understand the heroic age of Earth 616, which was where he knew his ancestors came from. And at age 25, he actually discovered where the original ancestor that came from 616 his fortress was, and was able to find this particular chamber, and which contained parts of a time machine and plans for its operation, meaning like how do you actually control it and create it. Um, so during this time, this particular time in that planet, um, Kang was just like everybody else in his race. They slightly have they age at slightly slower rates, thanks to its modern human because it has the ability and technology and medicine to kind of be resistant to the effects of radiation. Now, radiation is all around us, and it's thought to be the reason why we age so quickly. Uh, as time has progressed in this universe, they were actually able to be resistant to it and actually age slower because of it. Um, During this time, he's also proven that he's an expert in time travel, time manipulation, and even has mastered his future advancement technology, mostly his suit. He's an expert strategist. He's a veteran of armed and unarmed combat. But I imagine armed combat in the sense of like blasters and stuff. I just don't see him actually using other weapons, but I could be wrong. So Kang's full body armor is composed of a metal that nobody knows about. And it gives him the power to lift up to 5 tons, can project a electromagnetic graviton force field around him, which is able to go about 20 feet around and can even shield him from a direct nuclear strike. And in fact, in some instances in like the shows, he's actually been able to take hits and bounce Hulk off of him with this shield. Apparently, the suit has its own self-contained atmosphere, food supplies, and waste deposit system. Basically, you can go to the bathroom in a suit. Gross. But then again, we saw that in Iron Man, so is that really as gross as we think it is? His weapons include an anti-graviton particle projectors, um, and apparently that renders objects up to 2.2 tons weightless. He has concussive force blasters. It's basically very strong, powerful blasts, and apparently they're equal to like several thousand pounds of TNT. He has access to his ship's time machine, allowing him to automatically recall for a few seconds, as well as enabling him to kind of see other timelines, which will later on cause him a lot of problems. Various other weapons that he regularly uses, but he updates them all, which I find very interesting. He's also been able to use technology that transferred his mind into an alternate body upon point of death. So he's actually been able to change his body to escape death, which I just find so odd. So some other weapons he carries is like an antimatter defense screen generator, a vibration ray projection, an electromagnetic field amplifier. He's warhead missile launchers, electrical paralysis generator, nerve gas sprayer, and a molecule, a molecular expander, which basically enlarges molecules to giant-sized projectiles. So he can basically throw molecules at you, which is very wonderful. So he is actually able to have created a vast armada of warriors across the galaxy of his future area. They're all armed with advanced weaponry. He uses numerous robots, notably growing man stimuloids, which I still can't get over. They're just robots, um, and causes them. I can't get over this. They literally have packed with growth pollen, which causes them to grow in size and strength by absorbing kinetic energy. Interesting. So, Kang's particular primary base is in the 40th century of Earth 6311, which is obviously called still Other Earth. He maintains a secret dwelling in that realm known as Purgatory and has various strongholds in alternate universes. Um, he's just basically been able to go through multiple timelines and actually tried to conquer them, aka why he's called Kang the Conqueror. Dum dum dum. So as he's gone through this time traveling thing, um, he's his own worst enemy. He's found out because what has happened actually is that while he's constantly trying to um, prevent the future that he does not like and tries to undo the past, by doing so, he actually creates variants of himself. Now, for those of you who don't know what a variant is, it's apparently a person who's not supposed to exist, but of the same person. And because of that, they will sometimes try to take themselves out. Some of his other variants that are well known are Immortus, Ramatat, and Iron Lad. We'll talk about those a little bit later. I know Ramatat is one of the kings who went back to ancient Egypt to become a pharaoh, but that's neither here nor there right now. He He has also formed the Council of Kangs to rid the universe of redundant variants of himself. He eventually has to face the Council of Crosstime Kangs, a group of alien creatures and humans who take his appearance and defeat robots used by Kang intended to help him rule several realities at once. So basically, not only does he have to deal with the Council of Kangs, he has to deal with people and aliens and just creatures in general who try to be like him. Um, Obviously, in his travels, he's had to deal with a lot of heroes trying to stop him. The main two groups that he faces a lot are the Avengers and the Fantastic Four, which I find hilarious because he is a descendant of Reed Richards in a way. But I just find that hilarious. So he's had to go toe to toe against the Avengers and the Fantastic Four. So you're wondering, as a guy like this who takes over the entire universe, multiverse even, how the heck will he be able to do such a thing? He can he do it by himself? Well, no. Apparently, he tries to meet up with this Princess Revlon Renslayer, and apparently she rejects him. Um, and then she eventually comes around and she dies trying to save him at one point. Well, he becomes obsessed with saving her, and then even goes into the past and tries to change it so he can actually get her. A few times he succeeded and has gotten her back on her side. So overall, Kang the Conqueror has done many things. He's even teamed up with the Avengers and the Fantastic Four to defeat other versions of himself. He's gone through and taken out so many beings, it's not even funny. But as thinking about this as Kang the Conqueror, right? You got to think about where does Marvel actually rank him in his abilities. So what we do know about him is that and this is from Marvel Wiki, these particular stats. So his height is 6'3". He weighs about 230 pounds, brown hair, brown eyes. Um, so all these stats, so for durability, energy, fighting skills, intelligence, speed, and strength, they're based out of seven. I'm not quite sure why Marvel does that, but seven is the strongest you can be. So for durability, it's a five. I imagine that has to do with more of his suit and his defensive capabilities because of that suit. But even then, it's still only a five, which is a little bit surprising. But at the same time, he's not known for taking hits. He's known more for dishing out damage. And because of that, most of his attacks are coming from energy. So because of that, his energy is ranked at a six. So he's able to use concussion blasts and stuff like that, and that's where his energy output kind of comes in. Now, I know we've talked about him being a master of unarmed and unarmed combat, but Marvel's ranked his fighting skills at a three, and I'm wondering if it's because of his physical strength or it's because he doesn't really rely on his physical fighting style. Overall, he uses more of his technology than anything else. Now, this one is a bigger shock to me than all the others. It's his intelligence. They only rank him a four. And I think the reason why they mark him so low has to do with the fact that he doesn't realize he screws himself over. So every time he changes the universe, another version of him tries to beat him. And I don't think he quite realizes the effects he has on the timeline because he just thinks of himself so highly. And I think that's is really his downfall. His speed is a seven, and I imagine that has to do with his time travel ability, which makes him super fast. I mean, he obviously goes through time, so which makes him faster than everyone. Which doesn't surprise me when I think about the time manipulation ability, but overall, that's his best stat. And his weakest stat is his strength, which shouldn't be all that shocking because he's not known for his physical strength. He has to use a power suit to make him as powerful as he is. Okay? And I just find that very interesting because as somebody who's supposed to be really strong, he really isn't. So, as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about his variants. So, Ramatat was one of the Kangs who actually goes back in time to ancient Egypt to rule Egypt and basically run it all. Another one is Immortus. Immortus is another Kang. Um, sorry, another Kang variant, and he is. Let me get over here. What the heck is he? Da-da-da-da. And Trinity of Beings. Oh, he is actually known as one of the Timekeepers. That's why he looks familiar. So, in fact, he's one of the Timekeepers who tries to keep everything together to make his timeline stay intact, which I find hilarious because in Loki, it's hilarious that Immortus is not actually in it, but the Timekeepers are, which is very interesting to me. So that explains Immortus, um, which I just find so odd that they didn't actually use his name in this, um, because in I should say in Loki. But that being said, oh well. So there's another one called Iron Lad. Iron Lad is Nathaniel attempting to contact some of the individual Avengers. Realizing they couldn't travel further back in time due to a glitch in his armor, Nathaniel set out to find help whenever he thought possible. He used his armor to track down the body of Vision, who helped destroyed, who had been destroyed. Sorry, but anyway, Nathaniel, you then linked up to his armor to Vision's body and downloaded all his programming, and which made him into the Iron Lad. Apparently, though, he is not a bad guy in this, which I find very interesting. So he actually was considered one of the Avengers at one point. Interesting. But anyway, those are the three main variants that we see. Now that's his comic book story. Obviously, in the MCU, we're going to see him as the main villain for the multiverse saga. We've already seen him as He Who Remains, who probably was more like in Morbius than anybody else. Um, and we're going to be seeing Kang in most likely in Loki season 2, but very confident we're going to see the main villain Kang, like the main Kang in Ant-Man and the Wasp. But overall, that's Kang the Conqueror. I know I've thrown a lot at you, but Kang is going to be a big part of the MCU. He's going to be the main villain for a long time. Well, I should say a long time, or for several years. And because of that, I figured it would be a great idea for us to know the history of him. So if you like the content you see, or you have ideas about character spotlights you'd like to hear from me, do. It could be from Marvel, DC, Star Wars, anything. Just let me know and I'll do my best. If you like the content you see, please like and subscribe below. Other than that, this is Beastly Eel signing out. Have a good night.